Charlize Theron has spent the last decade established as cinema's preeminent female action star. Her roles require a physical commitment most actors actively avoid. Behind the polished choreography is a staggering list of real, on-set casualties. During the filming of Atomic Blonde, she cracked 2 teeth so severely they required root canals. She's fractured a toe and endured multiple elbow surgeries to keep her left arm functioning. The damage goes deeper. While filming Aeon Flux, she landed on her neck, herniating a disc so close to her spinal cord that she narrowly escaped paralysis. That single stunt left her with 8 years of chronic, debilitating nerve pain and a heavy reliance on opioids before she finally underwent corrective spine surgery. Why would a highly successful Hollywood actor, who has already won an Oscar, volunteer for this level of bodily destruction when she has the status to refuse it?
Theron views these injuries as the inevitable price of a life lived without hesitation. Her physical drive on set is an extension of a survival instinct forged decades before she reached Hollywood, a perspective born from a childhood where stability was never guaranteed. That instinct began on an isolated farm outside Johannesburg, South Africa. Theron grew up here during the 1980s, a time when her environment was defined by 2 distinct layers of violence. Outside the gates, the country was under a state of emergency. For a child in her hometown, armored military vehicles and the brutal repression of the apartheid regime were daily realities. Inside the house, the instability was domestic. Her father was a severe, functioning alcoholic who would disappear for days at a time, leaving his wife and daughter in total uncertainty. When he returned, the home was filled with verbal abuse and weeks-long silent treatments. The house would go completely quiet, trapping Theron in a cycle of unpredictable anger and isolation. The tension broke when Theron was 15. Her father returned home highly intoxicated and spiraling. To reach his family, he fired a gun through the locked steel gates surrounding the property. Theron and her mother barricaded themselves inside her bedroom, holding the door shut with their bodies. Her father fired a shotgun directly through the wood. In the ensuing chaos, her mother retrieved her own weapon and shot him to save their lives. The police ruled it self-defense, but the foundational lesson for Theron was set. She realized early that if her life was in danger, she was the only person she could rely on. There was no time for processing or therapy. Her mother's strategy was immediate survival. She sent Theron to school the next day and insisted they move on. Desperate to escape the pity of her neighbors, Theron left South Africa at 16. She used a modeling contract as a vehicle to get to Europe, trading her past for total independence. While she looked like a typical teenager on the runway, she arrived with a level of domestic and emotional competence most adults lack. She already knew how to navigate an unstable world entirely alone. Her perspective was further shaped by the HIV and AIDS epidemic. She spent her youth watching her mother wheelbarrow dying neighbors into their home for care, witnessing the slow march of a plague alongside the sudden outbursts of political violence. Consistent exposure to both violence and illness established a specific daily awareness of life's fragility. She carries that proximity to death into every stunt, viewing a safe, cautious life as one that is actively being wasted. This discipline was first refined in ballet. Theron spent years practicing a bloody, silent physical labor, learning to push through infections and injuries because the performance simply required it of her. As an actor, she explicitly rejects the idea of mimicking the brute force of her male co-stars. Instead, she utilizes what she calls the parking garage mentality, the hypervigilance and fear women carry when navigating isolated spaces alone. By acknowledging that her characters are physically outmatched, she turns the reality of being threatened into a source of dramatic tension. The audience sees the character calculating their survival in real time. She describes herself as a scrappy survivor rather than an untouchable hero. It is a philosophy that assumes if your life depends on it, you bet on your own will to endure. Theron's career suggests that an action hero's strength is measured by their vulnerability. Her performance is the sound of someone taking the hits and feeling the terror, then finding the specific, scrappy will to refuse the role of the victim.